Hello, my fellow stars. Spirit Stars is back for another video. The Amazing World of Gumball has to be, if not my favorite cartoon show ever. If you guys have followed me for at least 4 years now, you might have heard that I made a promise to make my definitive top 10 best Gumball episodes video. I will say that I tried to make that video for a long time now, but in the end, it didn't work out because my audience will get bored with me saying, I like this episode because it's funny. Oh, this episode is so relatable to me. Hey look, this episode has my OC in it. It has to be one of my favorite episodes. See the problem here? So instead of doing a top 10 video, I decided to do the worst and best Gumball episode for each season. This video will be split into 2 parts because not only will it be over an hour long, but also I did not want to get burnt out for writing the script of this big project. For this part, I will be covering seasons 1, 2, and 3. The episodes will be weighted on the wire and my entertainment value because I feel like it could bring me the best results on how the episode was between. I understand why spoilers and opinions are in this video, but you guys already know that for the disclaimer. And one last thing. Some of these episodes that I picked here were ones that I already talked about in previous videos. And to that, I will tell you to not watch those videos. Those videos were made back when I didn't know much information about them at the time. With that being said, let's start with season 1. Season 1 isn't quite as amazing as later seasons. Yeah, I get it. It's the first season of a new show after all. It doesn't have to be outstanding right off the bat. For me, season 1 feels more tame in comparison. Despite all of this, it's still a nice season for me to watch too. Not only because of nostalgia, but it also has some of the most hilarious episodes ever. If you want to see the massive unfold, then you do have to skip season 1. But if you want to see the entire progression of Gumball, then you have to watch this season first. The worst episode of season 1 is the laziest, the most predictable spot of this entire video. I still agree with all the problems that I addressed in my top 10 worst Gumball episodes video for 2019. So boring, complete waste of 4 minutes, the whole church thing having a major flaw. Like, why would you make Lizard be malingering if he's supposed to be stupid? But since the laziest was the audience pick for the worst season 1 episode, I will briefly explain the runner-up spot, the dress. I will say this up front. I do not like the 12 of someone's designs being so freaking obvious, but yet people will fall for it. That's why I'm not a fan of the dress. It also doesn't help that this episode created the gun whistling. Are they brothers? Oh, sorry, there's technically the family path. But still! Picking the best Gumball episode is usually very hard to do since there are so many episodes that I like for the show. Even season 1 was hard. But in the end, I ultimately decided that the G is the best season 1 episode. I did do a review of this episode back in 2019, but I have a better understanding of it this time around. The G is about Gumball and Daria practicing kawaii, but the students are making fun of them. I feel like this episode is underrated because it covers the topic of maturity and the pointed lesson of being yourself, no matter how people view you. I can't believe that a season 1 episode covers such an extensive topic in such a relatable way. If you do want to get an episode for season 1 that lost the G, you won't regret it. Honorable mentions are the helmet and the microwave. Season 2 is where Gumball went by being your average cartoon into something amazing. But we're still far away to that point. If you guys have followed me for the past 3 years, then you would know that I'm not the biggest fan of Season 2. Luckily, I'm no longer consider it to be a bad season, since average at best. This is mainly because I don't really care for most of the episodes. It's just your average stories that you can basically put into 8 other so, which is not how Gumball's supposed to be in my eyes. It also doesn't help that some episodes would have been good or even amazing if it wasn't for the pacing being that slow to me. But considering that this is Gumball's second season, I bet that the staff is still figuring out how the show is going to appeal to their audience. In fact, by the end of the season, the episodes were starting to get better because of that. This is a surprise to all of my older viewers. The finale is not the worst season 2 episode anymore. Even though that episode still has its problems, I found the hero to be a better pick for this spot instead. Alright, I want to say this out front. Season 2 was that hours of a season that there's actually no episodes that I hated, though the hero almost came very close. I get that this episode was trying to be about how much Lister really loves his children, but the line on the other hand is awful. If you want to punish Gumball and Daria for insulting their dad, then that's fine, but why is it so weak? If I land to believe that Gumball and Daria deserve their punishment, they would go something like this. My dad is so dumb that there's literally nothing great about him. He's more useless than a recycle bin. Considering how Gumball acted in this episode, I'm surprised they used an innocent insult instead of what is keep way over there. While the wire was trash, I felt rather miss on this episode because later Lister really loves his children and this so really his home. Plus the whole scene where Gumball looks up to his dad to save his life is so emotional. There is a case of there being too many kids in the kitchen. That means there are so many ideas for this otherwise hard-worded episode that it got rooted into progress. But I bet you, if that wasn't the case, that the hero would have definitely been one of the best season 2 episodes out there. But as it stands as the final product, I was like conflicted. Speaking of the best season 2 episode, the best season 2 episode is the Fliss. I trust you that I didn't pick this episode because it has a star chart. No, it's actually because of 2 things. It's hilarious moments and it's starting. The twist is about Nico trying to make Gumball a better person after failing to accomplish anything this week. It took me way too long to realize that Gumball is that type of person where he doesn't care about anything but does what Elsa Savage knows time to time. He might be someone. I wonder who that could be. This is the exact episode where I realized Gumball's true character. He just doesn't want to have the least where the stars start on the family quiz anymore. With under normal circumstances, it would be just a one-time thing. But Gumball is actually right. This starter has got over Nico's head that she's trying to take her entire family like it's the military. All in all, the quiz is a nice episode to start a part of Gumball's calendar, and it's too freaking hilarious. Honorable mentions are the wall and the boo boss. After 2 seasons of standard episodes, Season 3 is where the magic happens for this show. Gone are the days where episodes play the way you expected. Now we have interesting backstories, character development, meta jokes, and most importantly, continuity. As I expected, Season 3 is clearly an improvement for the previous seasons. The crew finally realizes what makes Gumball unique as a Cartoon Network show in the 2010s. It's so much of an improvement that I have a hard time deciding what's the best Season 3 episode. This is why I didn't want to do a top 10 best Gumball episode of the year in the first place. There's just too many of them to pick 10 from. However, not every season has to be perfect, as the Grimes has confusing lying again. Get this, Gumball and Daria has been complaining so long that people somehow think that they're poor. Now suddenly they became terror cases due to this misunderstanding. Now I will give you 2 answers about how the boys went about this situation. A, they convinced everyone that they're not poor and this was all a misunderstanding. Or B, Gumball takes advantage of this and goes on with the Terry on purpose. If you pick A, then you're wrong. Now really, Gumball and Terry did try to convince them that they're not poor, but then Gumball suddenly decided to take advantage of it. If you want to make an episode about Gumball and Darwin becoming terror cases, then don't do both of these options. It's almost like the writers have a fight over that day on whether to make the guys be about a misunderstanding or just making fun of terrorists in general. Though if I have to be honest, if Gumball ever covers that episode where they made fun of that Terry with a blue puzzle piece, that would have been much better than what they cut up with. If there's one thing that I like about the Grimes, then it has to be the side part about Naive trying to teach Lisa how to be sarcastic. These honorable mentions are the triangle and the egg. Wow, I can't believe that the episode where the Wyatt has to be revised turned out to be my favorite Season 3 episode. The episode being the Dollar. You guys remember there was SpongeBob episode where everyone decided to diss SpongeBob for a day? Well, Gumball did a similar thing, but better. Maybe this bias is a little too biased on me because I'm an introvert, but look, Gumball wished that everyone would just leave him alone because he was so grumpy. And unfortunately, his wish came true. That is so dark. What interesting thing is that it was all the fault of Gumball's move. He let his emotions out in such a powerful way. Even after everyone else disappears, Gumball is sometimes still in a bad mood. Basically, the doubter is teasing all of us to not let our emotions control who they are. After all, it's one step closer to recent maturity. With that being said, I'm curious of whether the original plot would be better or worse than what we have here. Honorable mentions are the joy and the procrastinators. And that was part 1 of the worst and best Gumball episode for each season. In the next part, I will discuss seasons 4 to 6. Now, if I remember this correctly, those seasons are controversial in the fanbase, so hopefully I won't get any comments in the next video. When that part comes out, then you can go ahead and watch it right now. You can also watch my other Gumball videos in the playlist below. With that being said, Spirit Stars, sign off!